All right, guys, we are live. This is the Difference Makers podcast. My name is Justin Tamani. I'll be your host today. Today we have with us Michael Huynh. He is the founder of Competition Corner. So if you've been in the CrossFit space and you've ever registered for an event, you've probably used Competition Corner for your registration. So thanks, Michael. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Justin.
Awesome. So let's just start off. Tell us what Competition Corner is. Tell us a little bit about the what you do and how you've serviced the community for so long.
Yeah, Competition Corner is a competition management platform. So our platform is kind of a self-service on-demand platform that any event organizer that aspires to run a competition can just kind of log in, create an event, and just run with it. We offer anything from registration all the way through to live scoring and basically everything in between, which is kind of managing the logistics of an event. And that's kind of where the bread and butter of Competition Corner comes in, is kind of automating a lot of that administrative manual work that a lot of event organizers dread to do.
That's the dreaded part.
Yeah.
I would say that and the scoring. That's
Yeah.
one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah, I think scoring is pretty simple, and people kind of overreact in terms of like the stress level on scoring. But it's definitely a critical point, especially when there's money on the line. It's for people to get scoring right. So we try to keep it as simple as possible, at least on our platform, so that scoring is reported as it's captured.
Awesome. And you guys, I mean, we spoken just before we started recording. You told me how many events per year you guys ran, and that number blew me away. So you said pre-pandemic, you guys were doing about how many events per year?
About 3,500. Yeah, our peak, we've been around for a while, but our peak was 2019, and we clocked off around 3,500 competitions that year across, I think, 62 countries around the world in terms of like where they were being hosted.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you guys have hit almost every continent with that.
Yeah. China was the hardest for us to tap into.
Okay.
We picked up the Asia CrossFit Championship out there. But yeah, we've been kind of emerging across different continents and learning more and more about the local requirements out there, language barriers, payment systems. So it's kind of a cool journey to kind of venture off into those different areas and learn more about how to work with organizers out there.
Yeah, because I guess there would be tons of different regulations everywhere you go, right?
Yeah, that and just kind of like user behavior. Like when you go into the Middle East, nobody uses emails. Everything's text message or WhatsApp. You go into Europe, nobody uses credit cards; they use debit cards. So like, there's different things that you're kind of learning along the way to kind of satisfy the end user in terms of like removing the friction in getting people to register for an event. So it's not only having like a great event, but being able to reduce that friction for the athlete to actually register. And we're always learning more and more about the behavior of the athletes.
Those are things I would have never considered. I mean, this is why you guys are in charge, not me. But
yeah, language barrier is the biggest one. We learned in France that in order to increase registration for the French events, we had to be in French. We also learned that they write their last name first. So when we first entered France, people were entering their last name in the first name, and the first name in the last name. And then they end up printing the name cards and their names are all off. So things like that, play a big role in terms of just understanding the local market.
Have you guys, I mean, you guys would have had to hire almost like another development team or another person to help with the language barriers and some of those things in each area?
Not necessarily. We have pretty good relations with our event organizers. I think it's kind of a win-win. We work with a lot of them pretty closely to kind of understand what their needs are. And they're always happy to just kind of jump in and help us translate the platform, because at the end of the day, they're going to benefit for something like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes it easier
especially
on
with
everybody.
the bigger events that we work with, we are always doing kind of a retrospective meeting and lessons learned. What did you like or didn't like about the platform?
Yeah.
How can we improve for future events and so forth? So try to keep it, try to stay kind of as intimate as possible with the organizers.
Awesome. What were some of the first events, or what were the origins of Competition Corner? Like, how did you guys even get started in the space?
Competition Corner was a little side project for us. I was running a software company back in the day, building apps and platforms for a lot of the startups out here in Silicon Beach. And we just needed kind of a lab of ourselves to kind of build things and test new methods, new technology before we actually applied it to our clients. Or if we're going out and pitching to a client, we can always tell them we have the capability of doing that. But our gym, my local gym here, was running an in-house competition, and I figured that was kind of a perfect time to kind of build something to kind of help support that, and it kind of started that way. But even before then, I was competing at some of these local competitions as well, and there was always a gap in this space, from registration to live scoring. There's always these two separate systems. People would use PayPal or Eventbrite to do registration, and then they would either use a spreadsheet or some kind of glorified spreadsheet for scoring. But there's nothing in between to kind of manage the logistics and all the moving parts.
Yeah.
And that's where Competition Corner shines. Is like we manage everything from the front and back end, but also the stuff in between: heat management, reporting, live broadcast, volunteer management, judge management, sponsorship management. There's all kinds of pieces to the puzzle in terms of like running an event, and we try to hit all those marks.
Definitely is. When you say sponsorship management, what do you mean in terms of sponsorship management with the platform?
So you do have the ability to kind of sell sponsor placement for your event. Traditionally, when you're trying to sell booth space, placement and so forth, that's a task in itself for like the business development side of the event staff. So we've kind of helped automate a little bit of that in terms of capturing the payment for that, capturing the assets that you need from your partners, logos, a little bit of information about the sponsor, so that when all that information comes in to the event organizers, they have a complete package that they can kind of use and run with in terms of what they're going to do with that material. High quality logos is a key thing. That's usually a hard thing to get. So you can capture that all up front. You don't have to worry about going back and forth with the vendor, and gather information here and there when you really need it.
That makes sense. I could see the logos being a hard thing. Just downloading a little tiny JPEG offline is not going to cut it anymore.
Yeah, printing it on a banner and see it all pixelated. So
yeah. Awesome. And then what were some of like the first events? Like you said, you did your in-house competition for your local gym, and then what were some of the events that really like set it off for you guys, where you guys were like, okay, this is going to take off here?
We had a local gym here that was running kind of like a quarterly series out at Code 3 Athletics. And I had reached out to them and just kind of offered up our platform and say, hey, we built this platform. And we offered it to them for free to use. And we just needed a live, true, like high stress environment to like really test the platform. And they were totally open to trying it out, knowing that I would be on site to make sure that everything would go smooth. And that was kind of our starting point. There was a local gym that just trusted us to kind of release a product that had never been used before, and it worked out pretty well. And after that, our second event was the event that really pushed the system. We picked up an event in Canada. It was called the UG Series, and I hadn't realized how big that particular event was and how complex it was. We went from running a small little event, a single stage competition, to like a 3-stage competition with like 1,500 athletes. And that was a huge lesson learned for us in terms of like the complexity and the high spectrum of events, from in-house to big festivals like them. So that was kind of our big break. And from there, it just kind of trickled out. Athletes were competing at these events that were also event organizers. So they got a little exposure to our platform, and then out of that curiosity, they would kind of go through go check us out and kind of figure out what we did, and that's kind of how we grew.
Yeah. UG Series, for people who don't know, that was one of the biggest competitions like back in the day. I think that before WODProof got really big, that was one of the biggest events. I remember, multi-day competition, multi-division, teams, individuals, everything. Like that was a 1,000-person plus event.
Yeah, that was a complex event. Like you said, it was a highly inclusive event. They covered every age range through to adaptive. They did individuals, teams, and when you start layering all those in, the complexity of managing an event like that, exponentially gets more difficult. So it was a really good case study for us. And Paul at the time was the owner.
Yeah.
Again, trusted us in using our platform, and trusted that we were there to support them, knowing that they were our second event ever on our platform.
Oh, so that was only the second event ever with the platform.
Second event, yeah. We went from a local event and then went into Canada, and that's when we really learned the difference in working in an international market. Payment systems completely changed for us, and currency exchanges, all that stuff that a lot of people don't think about on the surface, kind of came into play really quick for us.
Yeah. What year was that roughly?
2014, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So funny enough, I was there that year.
You were?
Yep. That was probably the first time I ever used Competition Corner. But yeah, I was at UG that year.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's funny. I didn't realize that was kind of the beginning for you guys, because that was a big turning point in the CrossFit space, specifically, of like a more professionalized ecosystem all around. Like things were starting to change, technology was starting to improve, kind of all around. Everything was starting to take more shape around that.
Yeah, and no one was. I mean, there are already systems out. We weren't the first to be around. There were a lot of scoring systems out, but no one was, as far as I know, was willing to kind of push the envelope and building their platform out even more beyond just a leaderboard. So I saw that as an opportunity to just kind of build it. It took a while for people to understand the power of the platform. But it just required some patience and just persistence and build it, and eventually they'll come.
Yeah, no, definitely. Hey guys, Justin here. Just a reminder, like and subscribe down below for more content coming soon from WODProof and the Difference Makers. What do you guys see as kind of some of the next steps for your evolution for the company? What are you guys looking to change or improve on as you guys keep moving forward?
Live scoring is a key, like literally zero delay live scoring is a piece of that. Everything that we've built, we've always kind of built with the mass in mind, meaning that we want an event that's happening in a small gym to be able to have the same tools that a WODProof would have. And live scoring, like zero delay live scoring, has always been really expensive because you need hardware, you need staff on site. So we're in process of kind of building technology to kind of reduce that overhead right now.
Nice, that's incredible.
Yeah, you'll actually see we've partnered up with a company, Scoring Kairos, out in Belgium, and they've built out hardware technology to do this. So there's going to be kind of two levels of packages. If you're doing kind of like a high scale festival, we're planning on bringing Scoring Kairos on board to kind of support that. If you're doing an in-house thing, we're going to have apps to kind of support the live scoring. So there'll be kind of two different flavors of features to kind of cater to two different budgets.
That sounds pretty cool. Yeah, scoring is always such a difficult thing to manage, I would say. People want to know where they are, how they finish, everything, like right away.
Yeah, and it all depends. Like some athletes don't even care; they just kind of look at the leaderboard at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But scoring becomes more complex when you bring on more people, especially on the media side of things, where they really need to get information out. And that's where we've been really focusing on. Is as soon as a heat is done, that score needs to be distributed to social media, needs to be distributed to broadcast. All those guys that need that information to commentate on and report on, and that's the gap that we're working on closing right now.
Right on. And then with some of the events that you're running, we mentioned Wodapalooza and some of those bigger events. Have you guys started to look at some of the, like, I don't know where you guys are with like the sanctioned events and some of these partnered licensed events. Have you created any partnerships in the space that are long-term partnerships?
No. So, I work a little differently. A lot of events like to sign contracts and so forth. We prefer to not work on contracts and just kind of bet on the performance and stability of our platform. We feel, or at least I feel, that if you do not have a good experience with our platform, we don't want to keep you locked in on a contract because that relationship would just remain toxic until the end. But on the flip side of things, we're constantly striving to make sure that our users continually come back to our platform by listening, talking to them, and ensuring that we understand where their shortcomings are and how we can solve that. So it allows us to keep an open relationship without tying us down to a document.
Best way to do it. For your platform, you guys have worked to make it easy for people to find competitions throughout the world as well.
Yeah.
Did you guys spend a lot of time to try to make it as visible as possible for these events, or what's been the thought process behind making the events for worldwide competitions visible to everybody?
Yeah, the public directory was kind of a byproduct of Competition Corner. It just made sense for us to kind of showcase the events that we were running. And it was kind of like a value add for our event organizers. It started off pretty light. It was just a list, and you kind of search by date, and it's been evolving over the years. We've added a variety of different filterings that you can do now to the event list. You can search for events that have prize money attached to it. You can search for adaptive events. You can search for 2-person team, 3-person team. We've also surveyed our athletes to kind of better understand how they're using our system and what they like to see, what they don't like to see. So we've got this roadmap of things that we've constantly been improving on the athlete side as well. is that now the platform kind of serves all communities, spectators, athletes, the event organizer. So now we've got to make sure that we keep an eye on all angles and ensure that we're kind of satisfying that community.
Definitely need to make sure everybody's taken care of with that.
Yeah.
With some of the things going on with the pandemic, and we're talking primarily about live events. What did you guys do during the pandemic to kind of shift and adapt for that?
Yeah, it was, we were kind of running around trying to figure out what to do, especially like early on. We saw events started to get postponed, canceled, especially the live events. And there are a couple things that we ended up doing on that period is we opened our platform to the community at large for free. We felt like, the community has kind of helped build our company in terms of our growth. And it was kind of our way to kind of give back, especially to the local gyms. We allowed everybody to use our platform for free, to run kind of small little throwdowns, virtual throwdowns, to kind of keep getting their member bases together and just kind of having friendly little competitions online. So that was a big thing. We saw a huge uptick in virtual competitions during that time. We got involved in some charities during that time. United in Movement was one of those charities that kind of helped push, a fundraiser to kind of donate to the gyms that were kind of struggling during that time. So we just did a lot of outreach during that time. That was kind of our focus, is figure out how we can kind of help that community.
Do you have a rough number of the online events that you guys were a part of?
I never even looked at that. There were at least, I would say, 20 to 30 online competitions happening during that period. It was getting to the point where it was so saturated that athletes just couldn't figure out which ones to do. But we also saw, what was really cool is we saw a lot of first-time athletes starting to use our platform for these free virtual events. We started to see kind of an uptick in people reposting their workout videos through WODProof of competitions that they were doing through our platform. So it was kind of cool to see kind of people that weren't necessarily interested in competition, but were just interested in just moving their body and kind of posting their scores through our system.
I remember what you're saying, that like there were a lot of online competitions that started popping up and just trying to keep people moving during that time. So I applaud you guys for making those changes to make it more accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
That was a tough time for a lot of gym owners and a lot of people.
Yeah. I think moving your body was just kind of a way to kind of distract yourself and just try to stay as fit as possible.
Exactly. What's up next for you guys with Competition Corner? When are we going to see some of these new initiatives rolled out with the live scoring and things like that?
Live scoring is already kind of dripping out. We did the Butchers Classic in Denmark recently, using the Scoring Heroes integration. And since then, we've done 4 or 5 others. So as that's kind of rolling out, we're just taking notes. How can we make this better? And how can we make it more accessible to the user base? So that's coming out. We're looking at end of year where we'll have something that's a little more attainable for the smaller events. But our next big release is going to be a mobile app. That's kind of a long time coming, especially for the athletes. We've been trying to figure out a way for organizers to communicate with the athletes at real time, especially on event day. Should there be like a schedule shift or an athlete's been reseated? There's always these last minute things that come up or these events, and emailing these athletes just don't cut it. Nobody's checking emails during that time. So it's going to be kind of an athlete focused app, which is coming. When is this? Yeah, end of this year.
Okay.
You're kind of gone pretty fast, but
yeah,
end of this year, we're getting close.
That's cool, because that has been the biggest thing. I've been at events and been a part of things in the past where it's like, okay, the heat times changed, your heat changed, all those things happen, but you're just like, okay, well, where do I find this information? And it's like buried within emails or, competition information that's hard to sift through.
Yeah. And that was one of the biggest pet peeves of mine when I was competing back in the day, was that I would get a PDF email of the schedule. And that was my only point of reference, but like they never thought about the other attendee spectators. So when we built Competition Corner, we built the leaderboard not only as like a performance tracker, but it was also kind of a dashboard for anybody. A spectator can go in and say, when's Justin competing? Go tap on your name and he can see your specific schedule.
Yeah.
And if it does change, they can always check and refresh, and they can see that data refreshes at real time. So now we're just kind of moving all that into the app, so that we got push notifications tied to that.
Right on. And then have you guys decided to branch out into any other products within the space? Are you guys working on, or you just focus 100% on Competition Corner? Or
there's a reason why it's called Competition Corner. We didn't want to kind of pigeonhole ourselves into one sport. We slowly branched out into OCR, obstacle course racing. We actually have had companies come in and just kind of use our system for things that we never thought they would use it for. There's this company called CMP, and they do like a survival course. It's like a seven discipline event that they've used our platform for. But the next iteration of it is going to be tournament management. So we've released some beta versions of it at WODProof for like their weightlifting face off. We've got kind of like a bracket tournament style deal there. So that's going to be kind of the next iteration of that. So it'll add more scoring options for event organizers. They can get pretty creative in terms of how they want to configure their playbook on how they run their events. And this just adds another layer to that excitement.
Yeah, you would think that they could use it in other sports as well for a registration platform, things like that. I guess I never really started to look at all these other sports, but you think that like obstacle course racing or even something like golf could be something that would be able to use the platform.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to like workflow. At the end of the day, we can capture whatever we want in our system, but it's the workflow that is key. We focus specifically in the CrossFit space, and we've kind of dialed in that workflow and how an event is generally managed, and made it super easy for event organizers to do so. And that's kind of like our next focus is the workflow in managing a tournament. Because youth sports is a huge sector for across the states. And that's kind of an area where we want to tap into.
Amazing. Awesome. Michael, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Where can everybody find you? I know we've got the Competition Corner link, but what's the best place to find you or find out more about Competition Corner?
Yeah, they can email me, michael@competitioncorner.net. It's my direct email. I try to respond as quickly as possible. So any questions that come up, they want a demo of the platform, hit me up there.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And we'll talk soon.
Okay, have a good one.
Take care. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hit that like button and subscribe down below for more content coming soon from WODProof.